Okay, if you've been watching our stomach acid videos, you've learned why low stomach acid can cause reflux. But gastritis, surely gastritis, inflammation of the stomach walls, is caused by too much acid. How could that possibly be caused by too little acid? Well, it is. I'm Dr. Shark with Shark Holistic Health. I am an acupuncture physician who has practiced in California and Florida and now in Mexico. I am not an MD. Our telemedicine clinic, Shark Holistic Health, uses functional medicine, Chinese herbs, and nutrition to help patients with chronic illness recover their health naturally and permanently. I've been in private practice for nearly 20 years. I've seen thousands of patients recover their health. I've taken thousands of hours of advanced training myself, and I now teach other licensed practitioners how to do what I do in their clinics. And I'm going to teach you a little bit today about what I share with them. Okay, here we have our stomach, obviously. And our question is, how can low stomach acid cause gastritis? That doesn't make any sense. Gastritis is inflammation of the stomach, gastro, right? So gastritis is inflammation of the walls of the stomach. Here we have our gastric pit. So inside our stomach, we have thousands of these structures, so the sides of the stomach are like this. It's not a smooth surface, right? So we have all of this up and down, wavy kind of a surface. There's a lot of surface area here. Okay, so we have our cells here, and this is one of our gastric pits. Let's just zoom in a little so we can see better. Okay, and there's different kind of cells at different parts of the gastric pit. Now down here, pretty much inside the pit, we have a very acidic environment. Super acidic. Now up here in the main chamber of the stomach, this is where our food and our everything is. Up here on the edges of the gastric pits up here, we have what's called our surface mucus cells. So, surface mucus cells. These make a very thick, very thick mucus. And they have a base in them. Sorry, that should be, okay, bicarbonate, otherwise known as baking soda. HCO3. This is a negative charge. This is a base. There's a lot of different ways to say these things, but this is a base in these surface mucus cells. Why? Because it should be really acidic out here. And so then when the acid touches the sides here, it doesn't damage the sides. So it still seems like, well, you're just making the point that gastritis, which is damage to this, so you have to get through all this mucus to damage this, would be from too much acid. It makes sense, right? But here's the part that's missing from the analysis. What makes the surface mucus cells make the thick mucus? And that thing is the acid stimulating it. So if the acid isn't trying to get to the sides of the stomach here, these cells that sense the acid, they don't make the mucus. And so the mucus starts to thin out. So instead of having this thick mucus here, just end up with a thin layer. Very thin. Now, when you eat, you're still going to make acid, some acid. So your parietal cells are going to make your HCl. Okay, and so that's going to kind of come up out of the gastric pits into the main part of the stomach. Some of that's going to be touching the edges, but it's not enough to trigger this thick mucus lining. And so you start to get these little gaps. And now acid, wherever there's gaps, can touch the side of the stomach. One thing that will do this really quickly is like ibuprofen. Be very careful if you take ibuprofen that you're taking it with a full glass of water every single time, because this is what ibuprofen does. It thins this lining out, creates these little gaps, and then the acid can create little burns, little sores, little holes in here. So that's gastritis. If this continues and you end up with big burns, big holes, that's what we call an ulcer. Okay, so we don't want that. So gastritis is more like a sunburn on the stomach, and then an ulcer is when you burnt a hole in it. So this is why low stomach acid creates gastritis, lining damage. Now, what do you do about it? This is the tricky part, and this is why a lot of people don't understand that gastritis is actually from low stomach acid. Because if right now, if you have gastritis, so you've got these little burns, you've got some gaps in your mucus lining here. Okay, so you've got these little burns. Now, if I just add a bunch of acid, which is what we would normally do for low stomach acid, that's going to burn more. Now you're going to create a problem. You are going to get an ulcer, right? So we can't do that. We can't just add a bunch of acid. We have to first heal this, right? We can't acidify first when there's gastritis. We have to heal this lining, thicken the lining up again, nice and thick. And then after this is thick, then we raise the HCl, right? So how do we do this? Chinese herbs. There are Chinese herbs that can heal your stomach lining in a matter of weeks, at most a couple of months. It's pretty fast. If you have ever had stomach lining damage, you'll find that there's not much that can heal it. So being able to heal it in weeks to possibly a couple of months is incredibly fast. Once this is thick, you will be able to reacidify without causing any damage to the stomach. And then you get to digest your food and you get to get your minerals again and your proteins again, two things that are very hard to digest without stomach acid. Your fat soluble vitamins like vitamin D, right? So if you have reflux, gastritis, low vitamin D, osteoporosis, these types of things, this can be traced back to your low stomach acid. And it can be fixed, but it must be fixed in the correct order with the right interventions to avoid causing more harm.